But the Bible says in John chapter 1, as they asked him in verse 19, and this is the record of John, when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who art thou?" Verse 20, he said, and he confessed and denied not, but confessed, "I am not the Christ." Listen, this is a man that everybody looked at and says, "He's Jesus." He said, "Let me tell you what, I'm not Jesus. Don't talk to me like that. Don't ever lift me up higher than a man. Listen, I'm not the light. I'm just a witness of the light. I don't save people. I just point people towards Jesus who saves them." He says, "I can't do anything for you to get you to heaven. I can't get you 1 inch closer to heaven. I'm just pointing you to the one who can get you to heaven for sure." And let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that's how a Baptist should talk. It's nothing special about us. Hey, John the Baptist said, "I'm not the Christ. I'm just a witness of the light." He says, "I'm not the light. I'm not the one that does these things. I'm not the one that gives people joy. I'm not the one that changes lives. I'm not the one that encourages people. I'm not the one that comforts people. God is the one that does that." That's the way a Baptist ought to talk. You have to understand, John had a humble view of himself. You know how important it is for us to have humility? Listen, as Christians, we ought to be humble people. You know why? Because if anybody knows what we ought to know what we are. We're sinners saved by grace. The only good things about us is Jesus Christ. The only thing that makes us different from anybody else is Jesus Christ. If it wasn't for Jesus, listen, we'd be in the same stuck mess everybody else is in. We'd be in the same miry clay. We'd be in the same sinking sand. We'd be the same lost, blind condition. We'd be a mess doing our own thing. If it wasn't for Jesus, I'm saying you and I as Baptists, we ought to know who we are and where we came from. A Christian should never be arrogant. A Christian should never be holier than thou. A Christian ought to never have an air of superiority. A Christian ought to never think that they know everything. I was very convicted by someone that gave me their testimony, I guess a month or two ago, and they're attending our church now, and they said, "You know, I went to some other religions, and as I got to talking, and I want to say it's Mormons and people like that, other religions," he said, "I just was taken back with their arrogancy. It's like they thought that they knew everything. Everybody else was dumb, and they're the only ones that knew anything." Listen, we need to guard ourselves. Sometimes we learn the Bible a little bit. We learn a little doctrine. We learn a little bit of this and this. Oh, let me answer your question, my friend. Be careful. John the Baptist came from a priestly background. Miraculously born son, was the forerunner of Jesus. Multitudes came and healed him. "Who are you?" He said, "I'm just a witness of the light." He says, "I'm nothing." John's nothing. Hey, John was very humble, if you will.